Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Let's start our story with a video about a petty revenge while camping. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Keep reporting us, because you set your tent up too close and you're gonna have a bad night. Every summer from May till the end of September, my family, hubby, kid, me, and two other families, one with 2 kids and one with no kids, go camping about every other weekend or so. We always have a great time together. We camp close to the river so kids can swim and the guys can fish. There are small rapids close by that we walk down to and float back to camp during the day. At night, we build a bonfire and the adults sit around talking and having a few drinks while the kids pile up in a tent to hang out or go exploring close by with flashlights to see what's out at night. We always put our tents close together, but as far away from the edges of the site as possible so we can have some privacy and don't disturb other campers. The campground rules state that quiet time runs from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. We've been going on these trips for several years and have never had any problems or issues with other campers or campground staff. Over this past summer, we were camping and someone pulled into their campsite next to ours pretty late, maybe 7 or 8 p.m., but set their tent up on part of our site and immediately went into their tent. They had a kayak on their vehicle and we assumed they were going to have an early morning, so we didn't say anything to them since it was late, dark, and we didn't think it was a big deal. Fast forward to 10:05 and someone from the front desk comes to our site and tells us they had a noise complaint about our site. The guy said the staff making rounds didn't hear us or feel we were being loud, but since they had someone call up there, they had to come talk to us. We apologized for any issues we may have caused and agreed to be quieter in case we were disturbing anyone. Maybe a half an hour later, the guy comes back and says they had another call and asked us if we heard any other people because he couldn't hear us until he got past our tents and thought maybe the complainer was accusing the wrong site. We kind of look around because we haven't heard anyone else. There's a few other sites with people sitting around fires, but we hadn't heard anyone. However, as we were glancing around, I noticed that our site neighbor is peeking out of their tent at us, talking to the groundskeeper. When he saw me looking, he quickly ducked back into the tent. His tent on our side, and basically dry humping our tents, which is probably why he could hear us so easily. After the groundskeeper left, I decided to look up the campground rules. Nothing about lights out, just quiet time. So I took one of our bright butt shop lights and moved it as close as possible to their tent, turning it on and letting it shine like a spotlight on their tent all night long. The next morning when we got up, they were gone. We were there for 5 more days with absolutely no issues. And our second story. My kids are going to starve because of you. For some context, I've been working at my local food pantry since about June. And while it's been a bit of a roller coaster, it's been a fulfilling experience. With the current pandemic going on, we had to switch to a sort of drive-through setup, and so for the sake of simplicity and speed, we pre-make shopping carts with food, roll them out, load the cars, and send the people on their way before going back inside and reloading it. Just because of the increase in people we've been serving and the limited amount of time we have to serve, we can't take special requests unless it's something dietary related, lactose intolerant, can't have pork, etc. Not just that they would want cookies instead of cake. Now and then we get someone who isn't happy with the food they get or the amount of food they get. However, the amount of food they've been given can serve a family of 5 to 6 people, and most of the time they're super understanding. In comes Crazy Woman, CW. One week, we'd gotten a donation of huge trays of cupcakes, and because we were about to close for Thanksgiving, we were giving them away to every car so they didn't spoil while we were out. I was serving an elderly woman when she had seen the huge tray of cupcakes. She kindly asked me to keep them since it was only her and her husband in the household, and they, for obvious reasons, couldn't have the grandkids over. I double-checked with her, saying that she could also give them to a neighbor if she'd like, but she insisted since she wanted another family to have them. I put them back in my basket, finished loading her food, and waved her on before heading back inside. Before I'm able to get to the door, someone blares on their car horn. I turn to see another car that one of my friends had just finished helping, and the mother seems fixated on my cart. I push the cart through the door and approach their car with the following interaction. Me. Hello, is there something wrong, ma'am? CW. Is there any way we can have those cupcakes that other woman didn't want? I have 2 kids at home and they'd love to have those cupcakes. I peek over to the back seat and see the same huge 24-count cupcake tray in the back of the car. Me. Well, ma'am, it seems like you've already been served your groceries, and just to keep things fair for everyone, we can't give away extra food like that. CW. But that woman didn't want them, so why can't I have them? You're probably just going to throw them away anyway. Me. We actually use that food that people don't want to take home and reuse it to make another basket, just so the food doesn't go to waste and another family can have them. Well, I have a family of 5, so I should get those cupcakes so I can feed my kids. Well, the carts we've been giving out have enough food for 5 to 6 people, ma'am. I don't care how much food you've given me. Give me those cupcakes or my kids are going to starve because of you. She goes on this rampage, cussing me out and demanding to speak to the person in charge. At this point, I'd been talking to the woman for about 10 minutes, which had greatly held up the line, so much so the supervisor of the pantry came outside to see what was going on. I tried to explain the situation to him, but CW wouldn't stop screaming about how her kids were going to starve if she didn't get those cupcakes, even though she had received not just the cupcakes, but plenty of fruits, veggies, and some other smaller desserts, 3 loaves of bread, and even a 15-pound turkey, along with some other types of frozen meats. She even went so far as to accuse me of saying that I hoped that her kids were dead, which hurt, since I have 2 younger siblings and helped raise my nieces and nephew, so I'd never wish that upon anyone. My supervisor basically told her the same thing I did. Now and then I caught her shooting me death glares before turning back to my supervisor. Right as things seemed okay, she goes crazy, screaming like a banshee about how her kids were going to starve over the holidays because of us and how when, not if, when her kids die, she's taking us to court since we let it happen. My supervisor was done since he'd been watching the cameras and saw she was full of crap and that if she didn't leave now, he'd call the cops and have her removed from the property. She slammed on the gas and sped out of the parking lot, but not before flipping us off and telling us that we'd rot in hell. My supervisor asked me if I was okay, but to be honest, I wasn't. I'm 20 years old, but I'm a bit of a snowflake when it comes to people yelling at me, but saying that I'd be the reason why her kids were going to die hit hard. And even now, it still bothers me. But I hope she got home safely and that her kids were able to help themselves to some of the treats we gave them. Sounds like she wanted the cupcakes. And our last story. Good luck getting your business back on track, boss. I took a job working in a specific industry. It wasn't rocket science. Anyone with decent research/interview skills could do it, but the industry demanded a certain format for the information and for the end product to be marketable. Each product had to be completed in a certain time frame and meet certain benchmarks. As such, there was a bit of training involved in getting new staff familiar with the process, hitting targets, and producing to a reasonable quality. The company I worked for took the policy of paying peanuts to the extreme. The consequence was that they ended up training a lot of people who moved on to better paying positions at competitors. We were actively headhunted once we'd been working there for 18 months. Instead of doing the sensible thing and offering pay increases and retention bonuses, the MD liked to lecture us about loyalty and not biting the hand that feeds us, whilst telling us we were losers who were lucky to be employed. Shockingly, this did not have the desired effect of increasing morale or loyalty. All the best staff were siphoned off by competitors, leaving the dead wood and hopelessly naive, that'd be me, who thought that their hard work and perseverance would eventually be rewarded with pay increases and promotion. A crisis arose when a larger than usual number of staff left for greener pastures in a shorter than usual period. There were not enough experienced staff to take over all the projects, some of the newbies were thrown in way over their heads, and a decent portion of them couldn't cope and walked out. We were meant to have about 100 people working in this role, and only had about 75. In his wisdom, the MD decided that the best way to deal with this was to cancel all leave. I had leave coming up, my honeymoon to be exact. I'd gotten married a month previously, but we planned a dream holiday for a few weeks later, and it was now canceled. Even 20-year-old me, who was, as previously noted, hopelessly naive, had a breaking point. I approached the MD politely, asked if I could take my previously approved leave. "No, either you do your job or hand in your resignation," he said, confident that the little mouse would scurry back to her desk and quietly continue doing the work of 2 people. I did go back to my desk. but I returned in 10 minutes and handed in my resignation, stating my last day would be in 2 days, giving myself the luxury of time to get sorted before leaving. Apparently, the aftermath was quite something. I was the start of a disastrous second cascade of disappearing staff. The dam was leaking before I left, but it collapsed after. He essentially had to start over, and it took years for him to recover from losing 80% of his key workers. He certainly lost his dominant position in the market, but I didn't inquire deeply. I secured a job with one of the competitors who'd been making offers and never went back. I still work in that field, and every now and then I run into one of my old colleagues and we reminisce about the bad old days and laugh about what a tosser he was. Congratulations for learning to stand up for yourself early in your career. May your tribe increase. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.